Hello, everybody. Hope everybody's all right. Cool. Open the chat in another window. And that's okay. Put that here. And that's okay. So this is okay. We're going to check it out here. We're going to bring out the pages we need here on the tablet. The IBS space. So we need to check a frequency. Right now, I'm on 27 megahertz. There's lots of activity, like 27, 420, 405, 4. You can hear it here.
There from Texas, Mike 971.
Guy from Texas on channel 40.
Well, I'll just read them off real quick to you. It's got a preprocessor. It's got a set of various sensors you can set for all kinds of parameters on the transmit signal. It's got a noise gate, compressor.
That's on 27385. Lots of skip. 10 meters is open also. So if you guys want to check out some of the stuff that's happening on the radio. Check out 10 meters and 11 meters, the CB band. Lots of skip happening here in North America right now. It's the joy of having higher solar activity. 10 meters been open every day, and it's pretty cool. Okay, so welcome to everyone. This is, of course, the live show for radio, shortwave radio, CB radio, VHF, UHF, anything goes. We can talk about different things, about radios, about antennas, about whatever is of interest. Of course, we are here once a week on Saturday at 20 hours Universal Time. And my name is Gilles. I'm located in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, northeast part of North America. And it is really a lot of fun to be here and to enjoy our little Saturday radio moment, geeking out radio with a bunch of really cool people. It's always fun to be here. If you're new to the hobby, welcome aboard. This is a place where you'll learn. This is a place where you can ask questions. We're all here for that, and we're really a great gang to help out, and it's always a lot of fun. And if you're, experienced and maybe you've been a ham for 40 years or whatever, well, you know what? You're welcome also. And, well, you know what? Even after 40, 50 years in a hobby, you might learn a thing or two that you just didn't know. We're going to actually have an interesting little, I've got some questions actually. We really never really touched that topic before, but when you radio, you look at radio specs and all of that. One of the things that came to my email was a message, and the viewer is asking me what does certain things mean, certain terms. So he sees, like SSB and PLL and USB and LSB and another one is quartz synthesized receiver, the sensitivity and all of the kind of the specs and the weirdness of everything that you'll see in a radio box that's going to tell you, well, this has this and that and that and that, and it's like, what does it all mean? And we're going to actually go through that, and we're going to go through the different terms that he wants to have answered. And at the same time, some of you might actually learn a thing or two as we go through those questions. So I'm going to go through the list of saying hello to everybody. And of course, we're going to answer that a little later. And of course, any questions that might pop up, even on the chat room. Of course, there's a beautiful chat room with beautiful people. If you want to join in and say hello, they are great, great people, very helpful, and always there to help out, and a fun bunch to talk about radio. When that is over, well, we have a Facebook group, official SWL channel, with almost 3,000 members. Very active group, lots of people posting and having fun. And we'll have a few promotions of things that I do also, and that might be of interest to some of you a little later on. So welcome aboard, everybody. Hope you're going to have fun today and that you're going to enjoy the show. Masters Players Radio and Television Plus Gaming. Bobby Burgess, nice to have you here, and hope you have fun at a wrestling match. I haven't been at a wrestling match in ages. I think I was like 22, 23 years old when I actually went to one of those. BMDK2, Matt, nice to have you on board from chilly Denver. It's pretty chilly here in Montreal too. Winter is here. There's snow on the ground. We have I'd say about 2 inches of snow on the ground. So it looks much more wintry, and I started putting Christmas decorations up, and probably will be making my Christmas tree next week, early next week possibly. It's definitely looking like winter now, and it's gonna be even cold. I think it's tonight or tomorrow. I'm gonna go down to like minus 11, minus 12 during the night, which is and maybe 7 or 8, 9, 10 degrees Fahrenheit, not much more. That's a little cold for this time of year, though. But it's it's a sign of winter arriving, and it's interesting because I was looking at I have my OneDrive that has automatic storage of all the pictures and the stuff that I do, including from my phone. And of course, I take a lot of pictures every time I go somewhere. I take pictures. It's fun to have great memories of everything you do. And OneDrive has a feature, and I guess Google Photos also has that. It's a feature where it says, "Oh, on this day, this is what you were doing last year and the year before, and so on." So if there are pictures taken on the same date, it's going to actually bring me back saying, "Hey, look at that! 5 years ago, you were doing this on this date." And I came across pictures of November around, November 15th to the 20th, which is the time frame we're now. Because I was thinking of, isn't the snow earlier than usual? And it turns out, it's sometimes you're like wondering if it's a little earlier than usual. And it turns out not really, because one of the memories that came up yesterday and even today is, oh, look at that, 2 years ago. And it's like, oh, there's snow on November 17th. And, oh, it's all white on November 15th of 2020 and so on. And I'm like, oh, okay. It's kind of the average day that we have our first snow on the ground, basically. So it's kind of nice to see that, and see also that there was another one that was from like 2015 or 2013. I don't remember the date, the year, but it was the contrary. I was outside on a t-shirt because it was like 25 degrees, and I'm on my bike, and it's like, wow, okay, on that date 7 years ago it was really hot, and then, but it's funny also because this year what's weird is the fact that 2 weeks ago it was almost summer like in Montreal, and all the doors and windows were open, and now it's winter. It's this is Montreal for you. It's like John Beckham, nice to have you here from Northeast Florida. Richard Wagner, nice to have you here, Northeast Illinois, 25 Fahrenheit. Rob, nice to have you here from Phoenix, Arizona, 69 Fahrenheit. We have Jeff King from Jacksonville, Florida. Nice to have you on board. TVDX10, bonjour, ça va bien? J'espère que tu vas bien toi aussi. David's Radio Room, nice to have you on board from a cool but sunny Central Georgia. Tarek, nice to have you on board from Cairo, Egypt. Go knock on the door of Radio of Radio Cairo and tell them that their modulation and their signal's bad. Well, the signal's good, the modulation's bad, which is terrible because Radio Cairo has such an amazing signal in North America, easy to receive, but the audio is just either not there or very distorted. It's so sad. We could enjoy some Radio Cairo programs. Now they're just wasting money transmitting. Cheers, everybody. So, Scott, KC2C80, nice to have you on board. 10 miles south of Buffalo, New York. We have Shelley, nice to have you here from South Central Pennsylvania. We have Chuck, nice to have you here, N5 KVO from the Cold Hill country in South Texas. 45 unit, nice to have you on board. 41 Fahrenheit in Southeast Connecticut. What else do we have? Let's go down. Try to go. Joseph, nice to have you here from San Francisco Bay Area, tuning shortwave and scanner bands today. Cool. I need to take out my scanner radios and do a little more. Thanks for the audio check, Rob. Nice to have you here. RJDA Dakota, nice to have you here from Winsville, Missouri. And 37 degrees. I was looking at my ham contacts. I look at all your states. And there are different types of awards on QRZ.com. And one of them is the award for the 50 states. I'm at 37 states right now, confirmed. And so I hope to get 50 states soon. Probably the most difficult ones will be Hawaii and Alaska, I would guess. Tristan, nice to have you on board from Newfoundland, Canada. And one of the interesting things about Newfoundland, I had a contact with the Victor Oscar 1 Alpha station on what was it? On Thursday night. I think it's Thursday night. It's either Wednesday or Thursday night. Which is the official station of Signal Hill, where Marconi did his first transatlantic transmission. It's kind of nice to have a contact with that station, a historic station there. We have. Let me just go back where I was. So we have PLF Radio. Bonjour et bienvenue. J'espère que ça va bien depuis la France. We have KW1161. Nice to have you here. Trevor, nice to have you on board. Says 10 Randall moved to WRMI. Heard him on 93.95 and 94.55 on Monday, Tuesday. The crew is now operating as WRMI legend. Yeah, it's kind of him. There's an interesting story. So there were quite a few things that we learned. So 10 Randall, which some thought that he had own part of WTWW, apparently has absolutely nothing to do in ownership. And the Scriptures for America gang that has WTWW, they're going to put it back on the air with 2 frequencies. But there's a lot of repairs need to be done. Apparently, they went to the transmitter sites, and the transmitters were operating with the doors open. The cooling water, which was supposed to be nice cooling water, is apparently all like discolored because it's never been really, maintained, and there was no maintenance done, basically. Transmitters were tuned wrong, and apparently there's some damage. All sorts of things. They need to fix a lot of things before they get back on the air, but they're going to get back on the air with 2 frequencies, which will have only Scriptures of America. So don't think about music. Music was really the Ted Randall thing. He's the one that wanted to have music on WTWW. But apparently the maintenance was not done and the transmitters are damaged. So I don't know when that's going to be back on the air. What else do we have? Yeah, they were sounding great. There was a few of them that I was listening to the CB on the CB bands, Matt. That sounded just amazing. Really good, nice signals, not the usual trash that we hear. Glenn, nice to have you here from Cold South Carolina. Ricky, nice to have you on board from Calgary, Alberta. And thanks for the for sharing the International Radio Reports show for 2000 to 2002. I will actually download them all on the computer here and put them up in on the YouTube channel as in a playlist that I'm going to call Old IRR Shows. So it's going to be for those that want to hear the older shows. Thanks for sharing that. We'll be able to put that up. What else do we have? Yeah, that'd be great. Buying WTWW, but apparently transmitters are damaged. We're gonna need some fixing apparently. VT Radio ARRL sweepstakes SSB is on, but I have not been into contesting this year. I'm planning to probably do the Canada Winter Contest. I feel like doing that, the RAC Canada Winter Contest. I think I'm going to be operating and doing that contest. Which is on December, what is it, December 17th or something like that. I feel like I want to try to enjoy that a little bit on single sideband. I think it's going to be fun. Greg, nice to have you on board. In Franklin, Wisconsin, temperature is 25 and snowing. So winter has arrived for a lot of us. Nice to have you here, Greg. Chris66, nice to have you here from Kentucky. Yeah, Helen Wiener, we can try the WTWW one. DJW883, nice to have you here from cold southeast Pennsylvania. Matt, did you ever try to copy Irish church broadcasts on the CB band? If not, this might be a good weekend to try. No, I never did try. Need to check that out. Mike Kaiser, are there solar shortwave radios you like? Yeah, there's a little green one that is solar. It's like it has a hand charger and crank charger. It's the Degen DE13. Is it that? DE13? I don't know where it is. Is it still in the box? I'm just going to check it out here for a second if I see anything quickly. Because if I would see it, I could actually take it out, but I don't see it. So it's the DE13, which I kind of find nice. I don't know if it's still available on eBay or somewhere. A nice little hand crank portable, has solar charging, and it's analog. It's really an little analog radio, and it's surprising for the price. It's low. It's not very expensive too, and that would be one of the ones I like. I have a few other ones that are emergency radios, but most of them are kind of crappy. But that one, the DE13, Degen DE13, I don't know if it's still available. Try to find that. You might find it interesting. Mine is green, and I know that there's different colors. Art, nice to have you on board from New Jersey, K280C. Sean Finnegan, nice to have you here from Massachusetts. Simon Templar, nice to have you on board. Pilef Radio, does it mean you will do a video on radio vocabulary? We'll eventually do a video, some videos with all of that vocabulary, absolutely. We're going to actually answer some of them today here live. But I think it's not a bad idea to explain what exactly does all of that mean, basically. Joe Tyson, KM4WRQ, nice to have you on board. Al, nice to have you here from Westport, Massachusetts. Tom, good evening from England. How are you finding the FTDX10? Amazing transceiver. Very happy with it. I am having a lot of fun. So right now I did a kind of bunch of FT8 contacts and stuff, but coming back to a single sideband, I plugged the microphone back, and I'm going to do more single sideband in the next few days than digital modes. But I've been having fun with that. It actually made me get a huge number of contacts. But the radio itself is great, love it, and it's one of the great transceivers I think probably out there because it's just amazing. It's really cool, and does a great job. And Tinny Tuner is really not bad for what it is. Did that stop? Okay, it's back. It's really great for what it is. And actually, anybody looking for a transceiver doesn't know what to buy. I think FTDX10 is pretty good. I really love it. What else do we have? Francis Moore, nice to have you on board. Joanne Dumbrow, nice to have you here. What is the best weather app for Android? I don't know what. I'm using my local Environment Canada app, which I love here. So I don't know. Maybe some people have some idea for a good weather app for Android. TB Ostrowski, nice to have you here from Medicine Hat. Nice to have you on board. Kevin, nice to have you here. Says I guess we won't get a balcony live show anytime soon. No, I don't think it's going to happen soon, unless there's a miracle, or unless I would dress up like with my winter coat and try to keep warm while doing a live show. Shortdar hard something like that. SNJORHADDR. Nice to have you on board. If I don't know how to pronounce your name. Matt says we see a lot of drastic season changes more these days. We did get a generally autumnal winter this year, though. Pretty much all of October, not hot nor cold. Here we had warmer than usual October. And maybe the first week of November was kind of warm. We've reached high temperatures in the 70s, but now reality is back. Rick from Milwaukee, nice to have you here. Rob Santry, just subscribed. Nice to have you on board from Grand Pass, Oregon. Joan Domros from Illinois. WFJ59 from Michigan. Ricky says, oops, lost my spot. Does anyone here listen to Voice of America and relays coming from Greenville, North Carolina? Is it just me, or they are having transmitter trouble lately? I've heard lots of audio dropouts or transmitter intermittently turning off. I haven't heard VOA from the North Carolina Greenville transmitter site in a while, so I'd have to I'll have to check that out. Simon Templar, do I have Oregon? So what's missing right now? Let me just check quickly. What's missing in my all states is, so awards. Do I have Oregon and 50 United States? I have. So I do have Oregon. I have 5 confirmed contacts in Oregon. I have Montana that has no QSOs. I have West Virginia. I have Kentucky that I have a QSO, but he's not confirmed. I have New Hampshire. I have Maine that I need. I need, of course, Alaska, Hawaii. I'm at 38 out of 50, so I'm missing 12, actually. So missing 12. So must be, I have Maryland. Okay, no, I've got that one. Which ones do I miss out here? So I have 38 out of 50. Which are the ones that I'm missing apart from that? Gonna have to check that out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Alaska, of course. So anyways, slowly working my way to the 50 states. Paul, nice to have you on board from Southwest Michigan. 23 Fahrenheit slowing for 2 to 3 days now. Jim's radio check. Nice to have you here. Mickey Delmage, nice to have you on board. And nice to have you here. Work new one. South Africa on 15. I got South Africa on 10. I got South Africa on 10 Monday or Tuesday of this week. 10 meters. That was our early morning, well, late morning, like here local, maybe, I don't know, 15 hours, 16 hours UTC. I think it was Monday, 10 meters. A pretty easy contact, too. -5 Celsius in eastern Germany. Snow. Danny, Shortwave Radio DX. Nice to have you on board from Elkers, New York. Cleaning up the Radio Shack and watching the stream. Nice to have you here. And it says, getting the shack ready for 1 gigabit fiber install. Wow, that's cool. You're going to be running fast. Oli Unaware, nice to have you on board in Southern Illinois. Robert Cross, nice to have you here. Sheila, nice to have you here from Belleville, Ontario. What else do we have? Tubrook Tim just built a new computer with SSD. My SDR is now crystal clear. Goes to show much noise the mechanical drives can make. Yeah, there's a lot of things that that can make noise in an SDR on computers. It's crazy. Computers are very surprising. Some of them are super quiet. Some of them are just crazy noisy. Ricky, I was very surprised to find those international radio report audio files. Now motivated to look for more hidden amid my various drives. Yeah, if you find more, put them up. I will slowly post them all up to the YouTube channel. Keegan DXer, nice to have you on board from Northwest Arkansas. 45 degrees Fahrenheit and sunny. Neil, nice to have you here from the UK. We have VT Radio, Paul in Vermont. Nice to have you here. We have Edward SH. Nice to have you here. My Emily 30 arrived. It gets noisy at night. Unplugging power supplies, lamps didn't help. A strong LED street lamp was installed recently across the street. Could that be the source? How to check? It's possible. It's possible. The best way to check is take a portable radio. Take a portable radio and don't extend the antenna. Just keep it as short as possible and walk around with the portable radio. Go under the street lamp. See if noise starts getting heavier. Since it's noisy at night, there's definitely something that actually turns on. It could be that. It could be a neighbor, security lamp or whatever that's doing that, depending on what it is. Also, I was telling someone this week to be careful for the noise when new sources of noise appear at this time of year, because there will be an increase in noise often because of the Christmas decorations. People put out their Christmas lights, and the Christmas lights, especially the ones that have all sorts of patterns and flashes and do all sorts of funky things. One of the things that happens with that is that those lights usually emit a lot of noise. Anything that's controlling the lights and the flickering and so on often creates a lot of noise. So it's the time of year where your noise level might actually temporarily go high because of the Christmas decorations from your neighbors. It's not impossible. But the best way to do that is take a portable radio. Any noise source you're trying to find, take a portable radio. Don't extend the antenna too much, or extend it just enough so that you hear the noise barely, and start walking around. And you'll see when you get near a certain noise source, because the noise is going to increase steadily. It's one of the great ways to actually identify noise. I was, when I was living before, the power cables were actually doing noise on the street. So there were the poles, electric poles with the wires on top. When it would get very humid, and have this electric sparking type noise on the radio, which would wash out everything. And on the when it was beautiful sunny days that it was very dry, it was always fine. So that's what I did. I took a portable radio, started walking around the street, and I came to one of the power poles. And actually, when I stood under the power pole, when it was quiet, every time the arcing started, I could actually hear it in my ears that something was happening on the top of that power pole. So what I did is I actually called Hydro Quebec. And I thought, somebody had told me, I think it was in a club, somebody had told me, oh, call Hydro, they're going to fix it. And I'm like, they're not going to go and fix it just because a guy with a radio complains of noise. Well, darn, I was so surprised. I called Hydro Quebec, and they actually sent a crew. The guy called me and said, well, we're from Hydro Quebec, and do you have the noise right now? And I said, the first time he called, I said, no, I didn't have. But I told him, can I have your number? When it starts, I can call you and let you know. And if you can, come by. And one day the noise started, and they came by and fixed it. And it was really great. But portable radio is the best way to find any noise sources. Just walk around with one and check out what you can find. It could be just an AM radio if you don't have a portable shortwave, for example. But it's probably one of the best ways to find where the noise can come from. Kevin Murray, nice to have you on board from windy Wyoming. Give Paul the cat a scratch for me. Yes, absolutely. And it's nice to have you here, KK7HGD. Are you on FT8? I got a KK7H something. I'm almost wondering if it wasn't you, just by curiosity. What else do we have? Windy, the best weather app right now. So Joseph says windy. Danny Shortwave uses AccuWeather. Casper Peterson, nice to have you on board. John Beckham, Radio Spain changed frequencies for the season. Yeah, 9690 is the new frequency. 9690 is the winter frequency. It's every year their change is the same. Let's check it out here if it's if I can surely must be on right now. 9690 on Icom with our 5000. Yeah. It's a little noisy, but it's there. This is Spain 9690.
Sí, por supuesto, ¿no? Y sobre todo cuando estás enchufado, ¿no? Pero pues, por ejemplo, lo que hacemos para
it's a little noisy, but Spain is there. So 9690 replaces 17855 for North America. That's where you should check. What else do we have? I am trying to, okay, here we go. Spain, okay. John Beckham, the jumbo shrimp are really good. Aha, people are talking food. Keegan DXer had a low of 24 Fahrenheit this morning in Northwest Arkansas. Neil, nice to have you here from India, and says having any interference from CRI here. Yeah, when you get close to China and Asia region, when you start using Kiwi SDRs, you notice how China's everywhere. It's crazy over there. Crazy. Robert Cross picking up a radio station, 7233. Huh. There could be something on 7235. Let me just check here if I hear or see anything here. So what I see is that there's something on 7235-ish. Let me just check it out here. Yeah, 7235 is the frequency. There's something on. Just go here. It's not very strong, but 7235. There's definitely a station there. If we look at 7235 on the schedules at 2030, 2030. Just going to check something here. Nice to have you on board. Oh, look at that. More international radar report. Our friend Ricky found more international radar reports. So that's going to be really interesting. Checking the email at the same time. We haven't heard somebody ask me again this week, and I haven't heard from Elizabeth in Regina, Saskatchewan for a long time. Sent an email because I had her email, and sent an email, and I have no reply. I hope nothing bad happened. Would be sad because she hasn't been on for a long time. If you guys remember. So 7235 at this time. What's on 7235? Let's check it out here on the EIBI space. I shouldn't install the I haven't installed the app. I need to install the Shortwave schedules app here. So 7235 at this time has from 2035, 20, 20, 20. We got a 21 to 22. Oh, Radio Romania. But that's Radio Romania, but digital. It says digital is what could be here from 2056. And what I see here is not digital. So I'm not sure what could be there. There's nothing else that seems to be in that time frame for now. Huh. There's still some inaccuracies in the schedule, or maybe it's Romania that didn't turn on the DRM thing. I don't know. What else do we have? Trevor, like listening to VOA. Been hearing them on 11/7/20 during the weekdays. 21/22. Yep, they're a typical music show, music hour, basically. RJ Dakota says weather is always constantly changing. Meteorologists should love to work here. We always have a saying: if you don't like the weather today, wait a little while. Yeah. Rusty Rails, nice to have you here. Says, I think I talked to you on 10 meters last week, but I didn't know your call sign. Most certainly it was you. You were contesting. I am K5TSS. If I did contact you, you'll be in my log. And so I'm going to enter your call. And I'm going to tell you, my call is Victor Echo 2 Zulu Zulu India. So I'm going to check it out here. K5TSS. K5TSS. Did I work you? Logbook. New contact. Nope, we've never talked. But if you do see a Victor Echo 2 Zulu Zulu India, I'm the guy. Sir Maximus Ardwood, nice to have you on board. Mourning the loss of WTWW. Well, now you can actually hear the music on WRMI via the WRMI Legends broadcast. Philip Razou, do you have ham contacts of all provinces of Canada? I have, do I have all provinces of Canada? I got Newfoundland, I got Nova Scotia. I think I have New Brunswick. I have Quebec. I have Ontario. I think I do, actually. I have, is there a way to search by country in QRZ logbook? And you look at the logbook, just out of curiosity, I think I do. I think I do. Let's see, call. Okay, this is by, okay, yeah, I could have the calls by, this is great. If I do this, I'll have the calls. So I've got, by country, here's going to be the best. By country. So if I look at Canada, I've got a VE1, a VE2, a VE3, a VE4, a VE, I'm missing a VE5 because I got a 6, I got a 7, I got a VY0, and I got one in Nunavut. I got a Whitehorse Yukon. Got the V7s, V3, VY1. I got a VY0, which is in Nunavut. I got the other one, which was a Whitehorse Yukon. So I'm missing a V5, actually. So the only one that I'm missing is the Saskatchewan station. And I have every province, basically. Every province and territories. Pretty much. So that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. What else do we have? What else do we have? Hello, my friend from Ukraine. I don't know how to pronounce your name. Nice to have you here. Hope everything isn't too bad where you are. Baslo, CB is a wasteland right now. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Absolutely. I was listening to 27405. There was a guy from Texas. Serge, nice to have you here from Switzerland. And says finally get to join the live show for a bit. Cool. Always nice to have you here, my friend. Brad in Texas, nice to have you here. We have Neil wants to know how all India radios shortwave DRM to Europe is heard. Up Terse, nice to have you on board from Westerwald, near Frankfurt. Nice to have you on board. Plenty of snow. Temperatures -3. Mountain Meddling, nice to have you on board. Attending his first ham radio club on Monday night. Cool. Cool. Have fun with that. Danny Shortwave, holiday lights bumped up the noise here for at night. Yeah. Friend there says that his neighbor's 3D printer caused a lot of noise at the early evenings. Keegan says, posted on official Shortwave channel Facebook group on November 15 that WTWW was back at WRMI Legends. Kevin says he found sailor.org Academy. Resource that he found to complete college level courses free online. And says, I know a lot of your listeners and viewers are lifelong learners. Yep. It's always fun to learn stuff. I'm actually going back to school for you guys to let you know. Because I completed a certificate for electronics and one in for computers, but I never, when I went to college, the first thing that I went to was applied sciences, and I'm actually missing just one. I was missing, in reality, I was missing 3 courses to complete my diploma. And I was curious because I knew that in the electronics courses, for example, some of them were probably giving me some credits that were good for the applied sciences. So I actually went over to college, the college here not far, and when we started looking, I'm actually missing just one course, and kind of one of the easy courses to do. So I actually applied. I'll be doing that missing course from late January to May. And when I pass the course, I'm going to actually officially have my applied sciences college diploma. Why not complete it, even though I might never use it? I want to have it just for the kicks of having the diploma. I mean, just missing one course. Why not, complete it? Mark Big Boy says, I used a AM portable to find noise. Worked like a charm. David Miller from Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Nice to have you here. What else do we have? I haven't actually listened to WRMI Legends yet. I need to check that out. What else do we have? John Meckham, is there a radio celebrity that you wish was still on the air? If so, who would it be? For me, it would be Art Bell, formerly for Coast to Coast AM. I'm not. I can't say that I have a radio personality that I miss necessarily on the radio. Most of my radio listening on AM, FM was mostly music. So, I don't know. Let me think about that. Mountain meddling. I thought of you, Joe, when I read an article about a first computer long ago. I believe it was in England. I didn't know how to share it with you. Aha. No problem, John. We're here for that. Anthony Friends, nice to have you here from Florida. Spacebar, cursed IARU regions. What else do we have? Let me check it out. Adesh Manar Ramkinson, nice to have you here, my friend. Nice to have you on board. What else do we have? Yeah, the Fire Drake. I heard actually it's always a CNR1 jammer they've been using for a while. And I think was last week while tuning around on the Yaesu FTDX10, I came across the Fire Drake, the fast-paced Chinese music that they play, which I actually enjoy. I find that actually, if they are to jam, use the Fire Drake. At least it's entertaining. What else do we have? Yep, DRM. Christian Marcoux, bonjour. J'espère que ça va bien toi aussi. Nice to have you on board from North Bay, Ontario. What else? Yes, Greg, I'll say hello to Paul, the cat, and Mignon, the girlfriend. Absolutely. I'll say hi for you. Michael, nice to have you on board from Northern New Jersey. Yeah, Paul is sleeping in the bedroom. He actually went to sleep on the bed like 10 minutes before the show started. He was like really active for the last few hours, and now he's sleeping. What else? What else? Let's just go down here. John, do you spend a lot of time on the 40-meter band? Yes, I do. If I do, my favorite bands in general, and the ones anyways that I tune well, really the tuning is the best. Is anywhere from 10 to 40 in general. 80 isn't bad, but I tend to stay more like 40 and up. 40 meters is a band that I definitely spend a lot of time on. There's a lot of nice DX on 40 meters. So that is one of the bands I like a lot. 20 meters is really good. In the daytime, 10 meters as well will be one that I'll spend some time and check out what's out there for sure. But I do spend a lot of time with 40, definitely. Francis Moore, a guy next door vapes, and every time he sparks up, my receiver crackles. Found out it was him, and it was by the fence radio for crackled. I looked out at the window and saw a vape cloud. Definitely. Yeah, that's what I did, sort the country. So I'm missing a VE5. I'm just missing a VE5. And I have pretty much all the provinces and territories. So VY2. Oh, you give me an idea. Prince Edward Island. Do I have that one? I think maybe that one is one I missed too. No, I don't. I think I got it. If I look at next page again. Canada. Yeah, I got a VY. I got a VY0. I've got a VE1, a VE2. Well, maybe I'm missing a VY2 also. VY1, VY0. I don't have a VY2, so I might be missing Prince Edward Island, actually. So I'd be missing Saskatchewan and Prince Edward Island to have all of Canada. What else do we have? Greg, sure. Nice watching from Southern Illinois. Nice to have you here. Mark, Big Boy, is in northern Minnesota. And Master Players Radio says he's starting to hear noise bumps as well. Jim's Radio Check, I have a radio. I can't remember which one it was, but when you turned the light on the radio, it gave off noise. I have one that did that. I don't remember which one. It was like a clicking switch, and every time you turn on the light on the display, it actually clicked a little noise click on the in the radio itself too. Joseph Molloy, nice to have you here from Ireland. 9 Celsius and raining. Nice to have you here. Radioscapes, nice to have you here from Sydney. Yeah, it's gonna be an easy one. It's a course about social media, internet, and how it changes society. I think it's gonna be very interesting. Victor Osorio, nice to have you on board. And says great about your AS in electronics. Got mine from CLC, Illinois, back in 2000. Service radio stations down here in Honduras now based on that education. Glad I did. I did it for mostly the knowledge part. And of course, having any diploma and any certificate of any kind is always good because, if you search for jobs, makes it easier. Got more choices. But I did it. My electronics course, I did it purely in the interest of learning more about it. And if it landed me a job or something, well, cool, What else do we have? KW1161, Paul Harvey would be one of his favorite Miss Radio personalities. Darren Rogers, nice to have you here from Long Island, New York. Ricky says Jack Finnegan and Dave Fisher on Montreal Radio were a nice Sunday morning duo. Yeah, I would maybe have a few like older. I would, when I was young, my mom had the radio on all the time, and of course I was always on French language radio. So there probably would be a few that I would like to have back that are gone today. On French language local radio here in Montreal, probably. There would be probably a few. Artist Crafter's Kitchen, nice to have you here from Massachusetts. And he saw Black Panther. Cool. Says he misses Clayton Howard from HCJB and Rudy Espinal from Radio Clarin. Yeah, I remember Clayton Howard. I got the special QSL card they had done when Clayton Howard and his wife left the DX party line back in the 80s. Spacebar loves 40 meters. James Farley, nice to have you here from New Jersey. KD2GUZ. We have RJ Dakota DRM is kind of a waste unless they start producing radios that can receive it. Definitely. The only people that I would hear on basically the mailbag shows that I've been listening to DRM are, just names that are, guys with fancy equipment, which is, I can't see that as being the target audience of a radio station. You don't want to have the hardcore geek. You want to have the regular listener, and regular listeners don't have DRM radios. I think it's a huge waste of money and resources. Definitely a huge waste of money and resources, I'm pretty sure. What else do we have? Matt says, I have a high noise floor in 80 meters outside of FT8. I don't think I have any other kind of contact logged on the band. I'd have to double check. I'm at 80 meters. My noise floor is my noise floor is high everywhere anyways, but it's not high to a point that I can make contacts. But DX contacts, that's another thing. I will sometimes hear European stations on 80 very, very weakly in the noise. I don't even know if I could. I don't think I have my 80 meter contacts, because I do have I have a handful. I have maybe like a few dozen. And they're all, US stations or Canada stations. I don't think I have anything from Europe on 80. I've never really got what I call real DX on 80 meters. And one of the biggest problems, it's one of the biggest problems, it's really that I probably, even if I could reach Europe, for example, I probably don't hear the station when it calls back, which is one of the biggest problem here. And always am a little scared is I can make a contact with a station, maybe, or, if I call CQ, and that happens when I call CQ, that happens all the time. When I call CQ, the number of people that hear me that call back is not a problem. Is when I call CQ voice SSB, the impossibility of making a contact because I don't hear the station well enough is the major issue. The station hears me. That station could make a contact with me easily, but I can't hear them enough, so I can't make the contact, and I end up saying, "I'm sorry, man. Sorry, old man. Just you're not strong enough. I can't. The noise is burying you," which is very frustrating, honestly. Maze Man, love your content and your knowledge about the hobby. Thank you very much. Schoenharder says my DU808 makes a humming sound every time I hit a key. Yeah, it's possible. All radios have a little these little quirks here and there. Darren Rogers, my favorite radio personality was Don Imus or Imus. Name rings kind of a bell, maybe. Radio Clarion, yeah, Radio Clarion, a long time ago. Hey, Skip, nice to have you on board in 2EI. Yes, I know you want me to do CW. I actually want to. I find it fascinating. It's something that I want to brush up on and learn. I need to just sit down and slowly, get to learn it. I have a basic, when the CW is really slow, sent really slow, I kind of, am able to get some of the words and stuff that I need to, have my brain conditioned to do better. It's like learning a language. Eh? Maybe we'll have a CW contact someday. Ricky used to work late shift, sometimes listened after work to RRI in English and French in DRM using someone else's QE SDR on the East Coast. DRM has been wasted potential given the lack of receivers. Yeah, if anything would have popped up, if there would have been a possibility of having, radios that are affordable for DRM, would have been nice. Skip, favorite radio personality, Gene Shepard on WOR. James Farley, I have no idea where the Weatherfax comes from. We've been able to make out one thing with the comments on the channel is that the Weatherfax, the noisy Weatherfax that I've received, what it's showing is the North Atlantic. And we see the UK on one side, we see Greenland on the top, we see part of Canada on the left. I've noticed I don't hear Northwood's Radio UK on 4610. Let me just check it out right now. I don't know if I could make it out right now, but 4610. If I look right now, and got nothing. It's a little early maybe here for that, although not that much. I'm almost wondering if it's not Northwood's Radio UK that's off frequency and is on 4619. I've been searching every single online resources for Weatherfax. I've been looking at the NOAA Weatherfax PDF that's been updated in October of 2022, and there is no Weatherfax station on 4619, which is the frequency that I am listening to. My only explanation, and by what it's showing and the noise and the signal level, my guess is it's Northwood's radio in the UK, but it's on 4619 instead of being on 4610. Only thing I can think of. And I haven't heard 4610 in a while. Mr. C's Garage, the other evening we had a widespread power outage, fired up the PL-990, and it was amazing how quiet the bands were, and the number of weak stations I could tune lasted about an hour. When it happened, it's just so great. It's just so sad when the power comes back and all the noise comes back, and it's like, yeah. So that is what I'm missing when with all the noise. That's where you realize that there are tons of signals. They're just all washed out by the noise. And, it's almost depressing when the power comes back. You wish you would have, a power outage all the time. Talking of power outage, I need to get myself something for powering up my Yaesu FTDX10 when the power goes out, so I can maybe make contacts, a little bit of contacts at least. I know I'm not going to be making contacts for a long time on the battery, but if I need to get something for that, would be kind of nice. And of course, power all the radios. Well, I got the portable radios, but it's fun sometimes to power out. I can power my SDR, and I got the power bank. I can power the ML830. I'm pretty autonomous, and I can still listen to some SDRs and stuff. But Al says Larry Glick was so funny on WBZ Boston in the 80s. You know what that reminds me, Al? It's my mom loved to listen to big band music, from like the 40s and so on. And one of my happy memories of my teenage years as discovering radio was tuning to New York 1130 today is Bloomberg News stuff. But back in the 80s, it was playing big band music all the time. WNEW, I believe, was the call letters. And they were playing big band music all evening. And I remembered sometimes in a hot summer night when, being in the house is just impossible because it's just too hot. I'd be on the balcony with talking with my mom, and I'd have a portable radio on 1130 listening to big band music. It's kind of a nice was kind of one nice moments, and I'm sure my mom enjoyed that. Kevin, any chance you could post a link to your Windows channel? You know what? There's a very easy way to go to it, because today now with the new handles that YouTube is giving us, I put a handle, a very short one, and you can actually go to my my Windows channel by simply doing. I'm gonna try it again here to make sure it works. Yep. Oops. It's, darn it. Just want to. Okay, I'm gonna just do something here. Okay, yeah, it works. WCT, right? Yeah. So you go to youtube.com/ at the @ symbol WCT for Windows, computers, and technology. So anybody that goes to youtube.com/ at WCT, or Whiskey Charlie Tango, it brings you immediately to my Windows, computers, technology channel. VT Radio says worked all 14 Canadian provinces and probably all 4 Ontario ARRL sections. Richard Wagner, did you see the new HRO catalog as the RSPDX SDR for $249.99 now? So they've risen the price to what, $50? I think it was $199 before, right? Everything goes up in price. It's crazy. The inflation is nuts. It's like the prices of everything is just so crazy. Dirk Smith, nice to have you here from Virginia. Have you mastered how to decode the CW on the Yaesu FTDX10 yet? Can you do a future segment just on the CW decode on it? Yep, I've actually posted a few videos. If you looked at the videos I posted this week, I show you I'm decoding the ARRL W1AW bulletin. It's the decoding on the Yaesu FTDX10 of anything, be it a PSK 31, RTTY, or CW, is very touchy. Touchy to a point where it's like, kind of annoying. The CW portion, there is one thing missing that I would love that they would add. I'm sure they can add that in a firmware update. Why didn't they add an automatic CW speed detection? Now you have to actually guess what speed they're sending their signal on CW, which is a nonsense. How can you by ear, you'll have an idea, but yeah, oh, that is 25 words per minute. No, yeah, no, forget it. You got to, why didn't they add the automatic detect? I don't get it. On the W1AW signal, it's easy because they tell you, oh, now we're going to start our 13 words per minute bulletin. But in a human sent CW, why don't we have a automatic detect? Because I have no idea what speed that is. And add the fact that human sent CW is uneven makes it even more difficult to decode. But I'm gonna make more. I'm gonna make videos on how to use the decoding functionalities, and there's a few pointers and a few things. By playing with it, you start getting the hang of, okay, it's better to have it this way or that way, and so on. So what do we have? Francis Morse says just start a foundation course on December 4th. So should have the license January, February next year. Can't wait. Maybe make contact with you. Cool. Yeah, take it easy, Francis. Just take it easy. You're gonna be okay. Don't worry too much. With dyslexia, don't worry too much about it. Just study. Just make sure that you know your stuff, and you're gonna pass it easily, for sure. Just radio check. I might shut the power off in the house and see if any of the noise goes away for the heck of it. Yeah, then you'll know if yours generating some of it for sure. Scott KC2C80 says favorite radio personality would be John Otto on WJR55. Thomas Olson, nice to have you on board. And 10 days ago, says checked out the early morning pre-sunrise 10 days ago. Noise was unbearable. Seems to be getting worse than I remember. Lex 2006 says found your channel a few weeks ago and just got my PL-990 yesterday. Thank you for all the great info. Thank you very much. We're here for that. So good luck with the course. Anyways, like Spacebar says, Francis, have fun. WF7I Umbrew, nice to have you here, Bert. Didn't have the chance to hear the late Gene Shepard, but hearing his old recorded shows was amazing. Lots of ham-related stories. Mountain Meddling says I had a late night hospice call 81 miles north on Thursday night, and the propagation was amazing. I could hear hams far away on my HT. Cool. Tom, is anyone paying a bit closer attention to the AHF global command frequencies during the recent period of uncertainty with Russia, Iran, and so on? I've not heard any Sky King broadcasts yet. I haven't tuned one of those frequencies in a while. Let's put one here. Let's put 8992 here. 8992 on the Kenwood here, and low volume. There we go. 8992. That's some aeronautical stuff. So let me just get here, 8992. I've been using more of the tuning knob because the key bounce is, oh, look at that. Talking about it. There you go, look at that. 8992.
Zulu. Stand by. Golf. Foxtrot. Tango. Alpha. Tango.
So that's 8992.
Zulu. Stand by. Followed. Golf.
Getting on 4724 also.
Alpha, Tango, Zulu, Bravo, Hotel, Kilo.
Pretty strong on 11175.
Tango, Golf, Charlie,
So
7, Juliet.
some activity on the HF global command frequencies. Michael says, during a power outage, when a generator is on, is there still a lot of noise? Generators can be noisy. There is one thing you got to be careful with that, because some generators can be noisy. Harold Anderson, nice to have you on board. My P is down. I'm still available to get DX contacts today. Nice to have you here, LB1NH in Oslo. John Beckham, RF interference from the radio's LCD. Dot matrix LCD can sometimes be the culprit of interference to add to your noise floor. Definitely. Often, actually, a lot of portable radios, if you put your hand on the LCD display, often you notice a noise increase within the radio. Robert Cross, apart from one computer that I kept on Windows 10 for video purposes, all of my computers are all on Windows 11. I've moved everything to Windows 11. I only have one computer on Windows 10, and like I said, it's to make videos for my YouTube channel. Spacebar. What do we have? Oh, there's Other Crafter's Kitchen. Want to see nutty inflated prices? Take a look at the vintage radios on eBay. Oh yeah, that is crazy. That is crazy. It is. Those radios are not worth that for sure. 0-100. Nice to have you here. WF7i Homebrew, just getting my A3S installed on my tower today. First time I've had an HF Yagi since 2002. We're going to make a lot of contacts, man. We're going to have to try that on the HF band soon. Have a contact there. Spacebar, yep. There is no such thing as a silly question. Absolutely. Questions are we're not learned with the radio knowledge. We're not born with radio knowledge. Mountain meddling. Because of the weather, when I pinch my shortwave long wire with the patio door, it really screws up receiving. 0-100 says vacuum tube prices. Yeah, and they were already expensive. A lot of the vacuum tubes, when you needed, were already very expensive. Guy Lee, nice to have you here. KN6WET. And no problem, mountain meddling. Here for that. Greg Scherer. I'm new to the hobby and purchased a PL-330 a few weeks ago, partially due to the reviews. Thanks. Yeah, I like it. Nice radio. Cool. Have fun with it. Play around and check out the stuff. Does anyone know if Buzzer is still running? Yes, it is. I heard it actually this week. I heard it this week on while tuning around late in the evening for 625 upper sideband. Don't know if I can hear it now. Can't say I'm hearing it right now, but it was maybe 04, 05 UT, which I was surprised to hear because I don't usually hear it at that time. W5BL misses the pirate flag. Those were the good old days. I need to find a way to maybe try to put it up somehow. What else do we have? Trevor's hearing it on 15.16. Ricky can hear it on Calgary as well on 15.16. Video radio show. I picked up a Radio Shack Shortwave 100 today. AM, FM Shortwave 4 to 12. I'll check it out after I remove the corroded batteries. Cool. Check that out. It's fun. These are fun to play with, when you just tune around and check out how to, even though they're not necessarily great performers, just the fun of playing around with it. RJ Dakota, I do realize that some high-powered vacuum tubes are necessary, but I didn't realize that vacuum tubes were still a big thing. A lot aren't really very practical. There's definitely a big market for vacuum tubes. Definitely. That is interesting. I'm going to check something out here. It's interesting to see. I see a peak in noise every time I turn on my Kenwood R5000. But yeah, there's still a lot of, and not to forget, there's a lot of guitar amplifiers with vacuum tubes in it. I got my Marshall Valve State 8080 here. That thing has a vacuum tube in it for one of the stages. So I have, it's actually split in two. There's the transistorized stage with only transistors, and you have the when you turn on the valve stage, as they call it, it's the tube kicks in, and you have that tube in the circuit. What else do we have? Ricky says the PC I use to control my RSPDX is too old to upgrade to Windows 11, sadly. Yeah, that honestly, that minimum requirement for Microsoft is idiot. It shouldn't even be. Masters Players Radio says, wasn't for the minimal requirement for Windows 11, would say push it, but for now, no. Yep. Matt says, hopefully they expand the pool of eligible PCs to run Windows 11. Yeah. The uptake is very slow, so I don't know. Where I've had actually a series of 3 videos that a lot of people found interesting, the take I have on the future of Windows. And the fact that we're going to have Windows 10's end of support is in 2025. And right now, if you look at the number of people on Windows 10, we have never had as many people on a Windows version when a new version of Windows exists. And the slow decline kind of tells me there's going to be a heck of a lot of Windows 10 users when that end of support gets closer. So Microsoft is going to have to do something about it. I think they will be stuck in something that needs to be done. My take on it was either they're going to change the decision on the minimum requirements of Windows 11, or my other take, because now we know that maybe Windows 12 is a thing. The other thing that I had was could they make Windows 12 and say, well, Windows 12 won't have the minimum requirements of Windows 11? Because Microsoft has a really, really hard time admitting that they make mistakes. Yeah, you got to ask questions if you want to have answers. Absolutely. Absolutely. RJ Dakota. David Elric, nice to have you here. Bodied Icom ICH16, 20 pounds. Wow, cool. Matt, buzzer was reaching East Coast. I saw a post about it and used the Kiwi SDR in New England to catch it. Take care, Matt. Always nice to have you on board. Stay safe. See you soon. Mr. C's Garage. My stereo is an all vacuum tube system. I have backup of set of tubes. I haven't had to buy tubes in a while. Last tubes I bought was 6 SN7s. Last time I purchased tubes, and I have some in, I have a little compartment thing there. I have a few tubes in there. Last time I purchased tubes was to fix an All-American 5 radio that I got here. And that must have been 20 years ago, at least. Robert Cross picking up a station 1591.6 on medium wave. Francis Moore vacuum tube, is that a valve? Yeah, that's what they call the valve state. The valve state has reference to the vacuum tube in it. When you turn on that ham, does the power dim? When I played this, when I put the volume to the max. Mountain Meddling, you told me when I started Shortwave about USB, and I recently watched a video and he even pushed USB. Yeah, I tune around in upper sideband all the time, or in sideband in any way, because you hear the weak stuff. Even in the international broadcast band, when you want to hear the weak station, see if it's there, turn into single sideband, because what's going to happen is that you're going to hear the tone from a very weak station and the noise that you would miss if you'd stay in AM mode all the time. James Farley says some slow scan TV in 14 to 30. Just out of Crafter's Kitchen, large expense of restoring my SX42 a few years ago was the vacuum tubes. I miss having that little electronics shop. The guy was, there was an old guy not far from here. It was like 5 minutes from here. There was an old guy there that had his, radio TV fixing shop. He had walls of tubes, and he sold them for almost nothing. When I needed a tube, I would go there. It was like, oh, $3, $4. It was like, wow, this is so cool. And one day, when he closed, he died, and his son closed, I needed a tube, and I went to a flea market not far from here where a guy had tubes, and the same tubes I was paying like $2, $3, $4. The guy was selling them for $15, $20. I was like, $20 for an all-American 5 tube. But what do? You buy it because it's like, well, I don't find it anywhere else, and they're all expensive everywhere. And you look on eBay or whatever, it's like, yeah, they're all expensive, and it's crazy. John Beckham, WWV, being received on 25 megahertz in Northeast Florida. Tom says, I'm not sure if the transmissions ever made the trip across the pond, but we do get to hear the Russian Air Force Barenet. The bomber comes back and forth between base and air-to-air in the 8 megahertz area. Yeah, with good conditions, maybe. It wouldn't be impossible, I would say. I've never heard, but I know there's a lot of Russian transmissions that are going on. That could be an interesting article for my utility column in December. Radio Yankee and Western New York tube rigs help keep us a bit warmer. Definitely K2YK. Definitely. That is something that does happen. And the smell of the tubes. Mountain Meddling ordered speaker wire and a slingshot. I'd like to, you go to some hardware stores, like, I need a wire. I need 100 feet of wire and a slingshot. It's like, what? Yeah. What are you doing? Oh, radio. Oh, man. Mountain Meddling says, my girlfriend doesn't understand my fascination with radio. I think there's a lot of people that don't understand our fascination with radio. There's a lot of guys that don't understand it also. I mean, just look at how weird we're usually being looked at, or just talk to family and friends, and it's like, yeah, you're weird. Richard Calfano, nice to have you here from Albany, New York. WA2157SWL. David Elric says, first SSB radio was a Yacht Boy 500. Jim Gordon, nice to have you here from Scotland. Radio New Zealand has been coming in well on 13755 from 9 to 12 UT. Cool. VE2FGG, nice to have you, FGJ. Nice to have you here. When you transmit on the Yaesu FTDX10 on the V antenna, do you worry about the MLA30 being overloaded? My preamp may get damaged. I don't, because they're at opposite ends of the house. I would if the MLA30 would be on the same spot near it. That would be definitely a concern. If that would happen, I would probably disconnect the power out of the MLA30 so that when I transmit, it would not hopefully damage something. But the main reason that my MLA30 is up front is to be as far away as the transmitting antenna from the FTDX10. Especially when I use voice, because when I use voice, I use 100 watts. FT8, stuff like that, I keep my radio around 30, 40 watts. I rarely go higher than that. But on SSB voice, I pump it up to 100 watts. But being at the opposite ends, no, I got no problem. And one of the things that I've been looking at is the effect that I have on like the SDRs. I'll turn the SDR on and tune it to some shortwave station. And we'll be recording a video of the effect that it seems to have, to see how badly affected the reception is on everything else when I transmit on a Yaesu. What I see is that on most bands, there's a slight desensitization. So I see that the RSPDX will kind of desensitize a little bit, or maybe the MLA30 is doing it, probably because it's near a really strong signal, but it doesn't seem to affect it too much on most bands. But there's definitely an effect. I could see that when I transmit, there are things happening in the radios. So there's an effect, but the fact that they're opposite ends of the house doesn't worry me. It would worry me, like I said, if all the antennas would be in the same spot. Now that would be a problem. That I would not have. If the MLA30 would be in the same balcony end here on the back, I would probably not transmit. I would have thought of changing it to another position. So, but they're far away from each other. They're not near. So the effects are minor. There is some effect, but it's minor. What else do we have? Richard says, my son-in-law laughs at my antennas. I like that. People. Skip says, a shovel, garbage bags, and a roll of duct tape. Randy Collins, my wife didn't understand my radio life. I kept the radios, dumped the wife. Oh, God. Albert Cross, people think same with me. I'm strange talking about radios all the time. Yeah, I honestly, my social life, I don't talk radio. I don't mention radio. Unless you ask me, I probably will never talk about what I do with radio. and you won't even know that I do it, because I just know that it's a waste of time anyways. People are bored by that, and they don't care. They don't want to, oh, like I made a contact with Whitehorse on my ham radio. Everybody's going to look at you like, who cares? Yeah, I care. I find it cool. But I know you guys don't care, Sheila says, my family and husband thinks of me as a weird too. Glad to be part of the club. Welcome. We're all weirdos, geek weirdos of the radio world. Like, we'll always be weird people. That's okay. It's what we are, and it's not a, like, look at Sheila. It's not a guy or a girl thing. It's anybody that isn't in radio looks at us that we're weird, and that's all. Right? So there's as many guys thinking we're weird than there are women out there. It's the same. David Elric says, asks where Jimmy is in Scotland. David Radio Room says, my wife says that if you can't beat radio enthusiasts, join them. John Beckham, are you planning any new radio reviews soon via YouTube? As always, enjoy watching. Yeah, I need to find something to buy to review it. I'll check whatever there is this week. I know people enjoy, there are cheaper radios that are not very expensive, and there's always like new models popping up. And I've had a few people say, even if they're not that great, it's fun to watch your reviews and watch you play with them and talk about what you think about these radios. So, also I've been thinking of making a series of videos of what if you wanted a radio for Christmas, what I would recommend. So that might be coming in the next week, probably. So you guys have an idea what to buy if you want to buy something for Christmas. Not just the good stuff, some more ordinary stuff that just for the coolness of how they look. I have one in front of me here that I find that looks cool. It's not the best performer in the world, but it's okay. So, but I'm gonna have to check that out definitely. See what I can fetch. My radio budget is a little stretch right now, because you gotta also understand that buying a $2,000 Yaesu transceiver did take a toll on my budget for other radios, because it's really a big purchase. But I'm gonna check that out definitely. Richard, my friend said, what are you trying to hear, Russia? Yeah. Imagine, not only are we weirdos, but imagine that person that thinks the weirdo, you're a weirdo and you're actually listening to the Russian buzzer for half an hour. Imagine how much weirder now you look. What are you listening to? Oh, that's the Russian buzzer. Comes from St. Petersburg, Russia. And why you're listening to the buzzing? Does it tell you something? It's the other question that I got that question a few times on the channel, quite a few times actually. I post a video of something, which is typically a beep beep or whatever from like one of the number stations. And I get from time to time the comment of, I don't understand why it's interesting to listen to beeps that you just don't know what they're saying. I don't get it. And that you can't explain. How can you explain? I find it cool that I know it's coming out of Russia and it's a number stations that's for a spy. I don't know what it's saying. It's just the coolness factor of, I'm listening to a spy transmission from Russia. How can I explain that to somebody that already doesn't really like radio? What can I say? Nothing. I can't send him my feeling. I can't send him my excitement. I just had to say, yeah, it's you know, it's just cool because it's a, like look, the U.S. Global Command. Yeah. So what are you saying? I don't know. Why do you find it interesting? Why you're listening to it? It's cool. It's something from the U.S. Army. It's you're part of some action somewhere or something happening. I don't know what it is. It's just cool. How can I? There's nothing else I can say. There's nothing I can say unless you are on my side of radio, love radio, and understand radio. There, I will never be able to explain to you why this is cool for me. You know. Millenship says, I see Seagrains brought out a Skywave SSB2 with higher quality speaker, antenna jack, and battery charging. These are the issues you wanted fixed. So is it now the perfect portable? First of all, I'd like to see and hear, but particularly hear how better that is in audio. That's one thing. But for me, it is too expensive for what it is. If it be lower priced, yeah, of course, it's one of the rare radios that has NOAA weather channels. So, you're looking for something that has shortwave. Um, it's, yeah, okay, but it's too expensive. It's too expensive. I mean, you get something that doesn't have NOAA weather channels, definitely, or airband, but you get something much better in a lower priced Tecsun PL-330, but it depends what you're looking for. I find it expensive, honestly. And it mutes when you tune too. If it didn't mute, I would maybe not go crazy over the price. But you've got a DSP radio that mutes when you tune at that price. It's a little harsh. Mountain meddling. Can you explain to me circular antennas like the MLA30 versus just a vertical rod and vertical versus horizontal? So an MLA30 is a type of antenna that's called a magnetic loop. It differs from a vertical or an horizontal in the way that it receives. It can reduce noise because its electrical properties will ignore, if you want, certain types of noise around it. And it's very, very directional also. So that's what the loop is. As a vertical as an omnidirectional antenna. So a vertical, technically, a good vertical receives equally all around. Whatever the direction a signal's there, it's going to receive it at the same strength. The problem with the vertical, because it receives everywhere all around, it's also an antenna that if it's noisy around you, you're going to get a lot of noise. You're going to get the noise from everything. The horizontal antennas is more like a wire, for example. The advantage of being horizontal, well, it depends on what type of antenna because there's polarization that exists. An example, VHF, UHF signals are sent polarized. Polarized means the antenna elements you've noticed are horizontal on the antennas because that's the polarization of the antenna. The signals will be received better if you match the polarization, which means if your antenna also is receiving horizontally. It's still going to receive on a vertical. It's just that you're going to lose a little bit of that signal. It's not, the polarization doesn't match. But if we talk about shortwave, vertical mostly means the fact versus horizontal mostly means the fact that a vertical, well, it doesn't take a lot of space. You just put it there and, it sticks in the air. So for somebody that doesn't have any place, for example, ham radio operators that have absolutely no space at all, a vertical might be something that is interesting because it doesn't take a lot of space. Just needs a little spot to stick up in the air. But if you have a lot of space and you're in the HF bands, for example, well, horizontal means you can put a hell of a long antenna. There's a limit to how high and how long a vertical can be. If it's too long at some point with the winds and everything, it's just going to snap. There's a limit unless you want to have a vertical that is really thick and big because it has to be solid. There's a limit to how long a vertical antenna can be. Horizontal, if you have space, there's no limit. You can put it as long as you want. You'll just have things holding it up in the air, and that's it. And that's on the HF and on the medium wave and long wave. There's a big advantage. The longer the wire, the more signal it actually gets. It is also very prone to noise, though. If it's very noisy, once again, magnetic loop might be a better choice. But not if it's not noisy. Those guys that receive these long wave stations from far away often have these very long antennas horizontally, very long wires, because it definitely helps in receiving. Now, one of the things about horizontal is for a short wire, like if you put up 100 feet of wire, it's going to be okay. But if you put up a beverage and you put 1,000 feet of wire, it becomes very, very directional. The longer the horizontal wire is, the more directional it becomes. So you might want, and that's what some people do, they will have, if they have the land for it, have 2 or 3 beverages in different directions for DXing. It's not much of a problem when you actually have a shorter wire. Like 100 feet of wire is not directional enough to change anything. So hope that quick talk of what the differences are is... Richard, is Santa planning a visit this year? We'll see. I don't know. I haven't talked to Santa yet. I need to go to phone. I need to call him up. I need to call him up. What else do we have? Michael says my favorite radio personality is Shell. That's good. Jim Gordon. Perhaps we should set up a self-help group on shortwave listeners. Suggestions for a name. Mountain Meddling, you're so right. I'm all excited about contacts and people are just say, oh, and move on. Yeah, pretty much. Two Broke Tim, 1970. My friend reached New Zealand. What else do we have? VT Radio, time to give a thumbs up. David P. Miller, besides Malahit and Belka, are there any other good portable SDR with built-in Spectrum waterfall display? Those are pretty much the ones that are concentrated in their own style of portable radios. Basically, I don't see much of anything else. The other DSP types of radio are ITS 25, ETS 100, stuff like that, which are not in the same category. It's not the same league of radio. Spacebar FTDX10 was a worthy purchase to make. Tom A, 8131 USB, common frequency to start. David, if I had the money, I'd buy a Fedri BNC, but I can't go in that price range. Anything decent below $200 US. Edward, I'd like the Christmas gift ideas video. One more where you talk differently to my wife, explaining why I need the radio would be appreciated too. I'm gonna start making videos of. Okay, this is a video made for the significant other in the family. Why does your husband/wife need a new radio, explained in basic terms that you can understand. That would be great. It's like I could see everybody like, oh, darling, I got a video that you got to watch today. Let me know what you think. And then after he or she watches, like, okay, I just want to say that I bought a new radio today before you go and snap. God. um, mm, 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 mm. Trevor says, tell them you listen to CW from KPH. Yeah. Robbie Cross, also, every time I sit down, try repairing a radio, I also been told more things in life than fixing radios. Yeah. Why don't you fix the freaking fridge? The dishwasher needs fixing. Oh, I got a radio to fix before that. Mr. C's Garage looking for a decent FM receiver for his stereo system. Vlad, nice to have you here from Russia. What else do we have? There's Autocrafter's Kitchen. Joe, think you'll ever get to review the Ethon Satellite Elite HD? Look, I don't think so because it's too expensive for what I hear. We had one chance, which was the one that was actually got the wrong radio. And honestly, it's out here in Canada. Amazon has that radio. Get this, 975 Canadian dollars, $1,000, man. I don't think I'll be doing it. John Mickham says, I still fantasize about buying the very colorful displayed ATS-25 shortwave. Go for it, man. Yeah, Mr. C's Garage, absolutely. Receiving a signal from 7,000 miles away is cool. Long in the tooth TV, like why is train spotting interesting? Zero Gluten says, love radio, spent 33 years in broadcasting as a gospel DJ. It's tough to explain to anybody why you love radio. You can't. Spacebar says, the buzzer has been fascinating to listen and watch in the waterfall. Yeah, absolutely. Chris loves his Tecsun PL-990. Cool. Jord Hatter says, number stations means nothing to us, even decoded. It's meaningless. Sometimes like Tom arrives at 7 p.m. or something. Oh, man. Ricky, here's the coolness factor of HF for me. I've strung a piece of wire out and used it to capture a signal sent to me from really, really far away. Yeah, absolutely. Jay Watterson 69, nice to have you here. Richard Califano, where would I buy a Tecsun 501X? I was thinking of it maybe for Christmas. Have a PL-880, ATS-25, and PL-368. What do I do? You buy a non-co. A non-co is the place to go. Fast shipping, and you'll have in great service if something's wrong. Don Royal once again says, get it from a non-co. Yep, a non-co is the place to buy any Tecsun receiver, actually. WA7330SWL. Nice to have you here, Don. Francis Moore started for me at 8 years old when my dad's ham shed the Morse code. And my dad's ham shed, yes, the Morse code. Watching the oscilloscope, the valve smell and glow it also influenced my love of electronics music when I heard Kraftwerk's 0-100 has been a geeky radio weirdo since his preteens. Yeah, you know. It is, you know. Yeah, it's really, really fast shipping. It's like you get it so fast, and the prices are good. Yeah, I bought several radios from Nonco too. John, K6RXD, nice to have you on board. Thank you, Francis, for the tip. Nice tip. Really, really appreciated. Chris C says about the H51X, PL-330, and PL-368 from Nonco, and I'm very satisfied with the products and delivery. Mountain Meddling, I hate sounding like a broken record with my fascination with number stations, but I am ecstatic that they are coming back more. There is, I need to tune around and try to find more info, because there is definitely a new one in English that's been widely received throughout North America. And I need to go and check the Numbers and Oddities website. Maybe they're reporting on it. John, K6RXD loves number stations. Skip, after 40 years in the hobby, my wife has given up. There's nothing you can do with us. It's like, you know, it's like that. Randy, what do you think of the Icom R20? It's okay, but not that fantastic. It overloads easily. I got one here. Actually, it's not very far. Right here. Here we go. It's need to unplug the wire first. It always helps. There we go. So I got one here. So it's okay, but it depends. You know, I don't know what you want to do with it. Is if you're kind of attracted by the wide frequency coverage. I don't know where you live. The thing about the R20, like the R30, they overload crazy in big cities like Montreal here. It's like you've got to always play with the RF gain or attenuators, or else it doesn't receive half of the signals you want. Shortwave side, it's okay, but it lacks in the fact that it has a very wide AM filter. So with stations really close, it's kind of a tough one. On SSB, it's okay, but unless you pay a really, really low price, I would look for something else. It really depends on what you want to do with it, honestly, and where you live. It's very important where you live. If you live in a like in a rural area where signals are weak in general, then it actually will be much better, because it will probably now not overload and actually work better. Chance, thank you. John, K6RXD, this sounds like a support group. My name is John, and I actually bought my 50th radio today. That's the reason I'm here. God. Crazy. Artist out of Crafter's Kitchen. Yep. Imagine $600 US. That thing comes to $1,000 Canadian. Two Rogue Tim, when I was younger, much younger, my ham friend reached New Zealand from Baltimore in code with 5 watts. Oh, yeah. I got New Zealand with 30 watts on FT8 last week. That's crazy. Well, you don't need that much power to go far, actually. Depends on the modes you use. With Morse code, of course, it's easier to make contacts far away with very low signals. Sheila can vouch for Nonco. Had an issue with a receiver, and Anna was super awesome in helping me. Replacement process was super fast. Radioholics Anonymous. Mountain Meddling, another tech question. Today I received 2 magnet mount antennas for my Yaesu FT65R for home. What does a baking sheet do? Yeah, okay. So magnet mount antennas need to be on a metal surface because that's the way they were designed. The metal of when the magnet touches the metal, it actually completes the antenna. It does like a ground plane to it. So if you don't do that, if you don't put a magnet mount antenna on some metal, you will not have a good antenna. It's not going to work good. Here, I'm lucky in the backyard. I got 2 mag mounts, one CB and one VHF UHF. The shed in the backyard here is all metal. So I just slam the antenna and it just sticks on the metal of the metal shed, and these antennas work great there. But you absolutely need to have them on a pretty big sheet of metal to complete the antenna's resonance. It's the way that the antenna was designed for. It needs that ground plane to complete and work well. Any mag mount that's not mounted on anything metal, it's not going to work well. It's not going to resonate like it should. It's not going to work. You're going to find it crappy. John Beckham, get your shortwave DXing fix here at Jill's live shortwave stream. Mr. C's Garage, I collect vinyl. Some people ask why when you can stream music. Yeah, you can't, you can't explain that. I have not tried Whisper yet, WSPR. No, I need to check that out. Nissan Greenwich, nice to have you here from Dublin. I did try a little bit of PSK 31. That I will check it out. Ricky says, except we gather to reinforce our habits instead of ditching them. Why is it that every time you watch that live stream on Saturday, a new radio arrives a week later? Try explaining that. Let's go to emails. So, look at that. Look at Bird's antennas. These are cool. Look at that. That is definitely cool. That is definitely cool. Pretty amazing. Nissan Greenwich, nice to have you here from Dublin. John, K6RXD, thank you so much for the tip. Much appreciated. We have Jim. Jim Gordon says, hi, my name is Jim. I recently bought a vintage Philips AE 3570. Is there any hope for me? Man, when people come over here and they see the amount of radios I have in the they are just like mesmerized, and it's like, do you use them all? Well, I try to cycle through them slowly. Francis says it's an addictive thing, but better for you and cheaper than the white powders. Yep. Mountain meddling, yeah, it's super important. It completes the circuit of the antenna. If you don't put it on a metal sheet of some sort, the antenna won't perform. It's really meant to complete the circuit. Very, very, very important. I'm lucky here because that metal shed I have in the backyard works wonders. It's I don't know, maybe the top metal is maybe it's a square that's probably like, I'd say about 3 feet by 5 feet, something like that. And I just put the antennas there on top, and they just stick real well, thanks to the magnets. And man, they perform so good. I was thinking of maybe a mag mount VHF UHF for my ham radio stuff. It can be heard real far with so little power. It's crazy. You know what I did as an experiment this week? I went to the different bands using FT8. And I put the radio to the absolute minimum of 5 watts. The FTDX10 is 5 watts is the lowest you can go to. And I looked on PSK Reporter when I was calling CQ. I looked on PSK Reporter where my signal was actually reaching. And you'd be amazed at how far it goes with 5 watts. It was crazy. I even had a few 1,000-kilometer distance contacts on 80 meters with only 10 watts. I had 2 or 3 of them. And I was like, wow, my signal did 1,000 kilometers with 10 watts. And the ham station answered my CQ call 1,000 kilometers away. I was like, this is crazy. VF7 Ion Bruce says the iPhone makes it look shortened, but if you have vertical like I do, it's hard to look up at these from the base. Yeah, it's like, especially when there's clouds, you look at them on top and there's clouds moving. Oh man, you just like lose balance. Michael says, growing up with the radio and the stereo system had markings on it for civil defense. Oh man. You know, I forget all the time. I need to check it out. I have an old Lloyd's amplifier here. I just need to find speakers to plug on it. It has an 8-track cassette player. I'd be curious to hook that up and make videos of listening to AM at night on it. See how it receives. WF7 Iomru says the journey to get a tower up was over a year, very expensive, and needed a permit from the county, large grounding system for lightning, and also big effort, but it's worth for me for sure. Yeah, you know, and I mean, if that's when it's your passion, you try to get the best that you can do, you know. Others Autocratus Kitchen says, when people see over 4,000 records, now they know how crazy I truly am. 0-100, I showed my wife the new HRO catalog this afternoon. She gave me a look like, don't get any ideas. Jim Gordon says, I tried to cycle through my radios too. However, the 2001D, my main radio in the daily use. Same here. I try to cycle to my different radios, but you always come back to some of your favorites all the time. It's pretty much all the time. Spacebar says loves using FT8 on 20 watts. It's ridiculous. Francis, does the shed roof being metal act as part of the antenna? Definitely. Because mag mount antennas require that. That's what they want. They require you to put them on. They were designed like that. They were designed that the magnet sticks to a metal sheet somehow, and it completes the whole antenna circuit. So my CB and my VHF UHF mag mounts in the back were great because they're on that metal shed on the roof, or the metal shed. Calvin 29 or 001. Nice to have you on board. So all sorts of things. Things change. There's all sorts of things happening in the world of radio. Nice to have you here, Calvin. Zen Pharaohs. Moon dance. Moon bounce, yeah. A moon dance. Yeah, moon bounce is a pretty crazy thing. John Beckham, today's portables, AM, FM, shortwave portable radios have more audio power output than the 60s and 70s models did. Yep, definitely. You know, the WSO9 homebrew, when I start looking at how I, because I hear these guys on the bands all the time with, their amplifiers, and I'm using a kilowatt or 800 watts or whatever. And I get into a pileup and I see that in a SSB voice, for example, I also contact a station with 100 watts. I find that a lot of people using high power, it's kind of an overrated thing. Yeah, I know. If you use 1,000 watts, you definitely have a stronger signal. But it's not as strong as you might think. When you go from 100 to 1,000 watts, your signal is not 10 times stronger the other end. It doesn't work like that. It is stronger, but it isn't as strong as you might think. And I think in many cases, a lot of guys are using high power and they don't even have to. Which makes me think that when you have a really good setup with low noise, having high power amplifiers, not necessarily needed, honestly. There are too many, I think, that rely on that high power way too much. John K6RXD says, moon bounce. Oh, they did, by the way, the harp. I don't know how it came out. They tried something very special with the last harp tests. They tried to do a signal bounce on Jupiter and try to get the echo back. I don't know if it worked. Fred Waterer, nice to have you on board. VT Radio says, I made my fourth trip to the house of a ham radio hoarder that passed away last year. Paid $300 for a van full. My XYL blew a gasket. Yeah, I can imagine. Not necessarily because of the 300, but probably a lot more because of the where the hell are you going to put all of that junk? Ricky sees a lot of ham activity in 1520. Yes, there's an SSB contest, a sweepstakes SSB contest this weekend. David's Radio Room. The other day I bought my cassette. I brought out my cassette boom box and tried it. AM, FM, and shortwave still works. Might try DXing with it. Nice to have you on board, Marvin Motz. Konnichiwa. Nice to have you here from the Japan Islands. Milichim says, I noticed a bug in the Tecsun PL-990. It once did not come out of lock after I hadn't used it for a while. I had to press the reset button at the bottom to get it out of lock. Lost all my presets. You know what happens sometimes? And that is something that happens with a lot of portables, is that you don't notice it, but sometimes you might have inadvertently zapped the radio with static electricity. And, static, you don't need to hear or feel that that discharge to actually still have zapped the receiver. And what happens is the receiver gets locked in some kind of mode. What you could have tried to not lose your presets, milling chip, if it ever happens again, instead of resetting it, remove the battery and wait until the display goes away. When the display goes away, put the battery back. It will have the same effect. You'll probably get your radio back, and you won't lose your presets. So try that next time instead of resetting. Mickey Dalmish received 3 QSLs from Amanda Down Christie for the HARP 2019 broadcasts. Cool. Yeah, Jupiter does emit its own noise. It's you can hear crackling and all sorts of sounds on around between 20 and 25 megahertz, centered around 22-ish megahertz. And you know what? The other thing is what I was talking about. So the other thing is maybe we all heard Jupiter at some point, didn't even know his dad, thinking it could be interference. All sorts of sound. It could be crackling, pops. It could be kind of white noise that sounds like, ocean waves. Jupiter does emit when it's high up in the sky. Take a look at 22, 23 megahertz. You never know. Prasad, nice to have you on board, my friend, in India. Hope you're well. Yeah, removing the battery will probably have it working again, and you won't lose that preset, which is kind of sad, especially if you pass a lot of time, putting up all the presets and the stuff and the memories, filling up memories. Mountain metalling, I adjust the magnet on my Weber grill outside, or does it have to be on a flat surface? It has to be as good as possible on the surface that you put it on. Also, the surface needs to be as big as possible. So you can try it. It can maybe work, but if you can have it on a surface that it's maybe a little bigger, a metal sheet where it's gonna stick real good, somehow might be a little better. I've never tried, but I have a cooking sheet here. That's what the cooking sheet that I have probably is like. It fills up my my stove, and I know that it is made of. I know that the magnet mount, because I tried it once, the magnet mount really sticks on it, and I always wondered if I'd use that, for example, in the front balcony, put the antenna on it, if it performed as good as on the metal shed in the back. But try it. You're going to see how it works. What else do we have? RGA Dakota reminds me of the early 80s. I had a different boom boxes with at least 3 shortwave bands: Toshiba, Panasonic, and a JVC. Aerial Imaging, nice to have you here. Take care, Chastank. Always nice to have you on board. Stay safe. There's a pirate on 6925, says James. Let's check that out. 6925 here. Yeah, and it's pretty good signal too. Slightly off. Wow, his signal actually moves. It was on 6924.9 and now it's changed. There's some instability in his signal. So, but there's definitely a pirate 6925. Check it out. What else do we have? Take care, Francis. Always nice to have you here. David's Radio Room says, if you hear Jupiter and shortwave, where do you send for a QSL card? That's a good question. And you might wait a long time before it comes back. Ricky says, when I turn the potentiometer controlling the gain inside the MLE30, is the change linear or logarithmic? I don't know. I don't know how it's built for that. So I don't know. I don't know if it's linear or logarithmic. It depends on how the circuit was built on the amplifier. Maybe somebody knows, but I don't know. Yeah, like Mr. C's Garage says, if you can get it, it's typically the size of a car roof would probably be fine. Aldo says, go to Metal Shoe and get a sheet of 12, 16 gauge sheet aluminum, 1 meter by 1 meter, and double stick tape mag mount to it, or a bit of odd glue. Trevor, do you know if the baking sheet was a quarter sheet or a half sheet? One is 25 centimeters long, the other one's 45 long. I would guess it was the probably a half sheet. Yeah, I would say. Mountain Meddling says, I live in a hometown and the wires are out the patio door. I put the magnet in the center of the grill lid under the handle, the flattest part. If it has good adherence to that, because I'm trying to see here if I would put it on my barbecue grill, I would guess it maybe is a little small for that purpose. So I would probably think that if you can have it on something that is bigger than that, it would probably perform better. John K6RXD, couldn't find anything about the weather. The HARP Jupiter bounce was a success. We'll report back if I find anything. Cool. Mountain Meddling says, my neighbors are probably wondering what the hell's these wires and now an antenna. Aldo says the whole thing is bigger, is better with the mag antenna, but ground well. Shed roof is good. Idea, you adjust for slope. Adesh Manar Rankinson says, nice to have you here from Trinidad in the Caribbean. 73, my friend. Stay safe. Always nice to have you on board. So, WF7I, do you have any interest in eventually doing emergency communications like Aries and races groups here in the US? I'm not there yet. I definitely, if you know what, it's all has to do with a lot of things, including time permitting. But I definitely would look into that. Definitely, I wouldn't be a problem for sure. King and the Xer's back. So I'm going to check a little bit of some of the terms and terminology in some of the stuff that that has to do with radio. So the email comes from a viewer called Terry, and Terry lives in the Netherlands and says that he loves a live show and everything, and he's not in the chat. He rarely can watch it live, so he watches it when he has some time. And so the question that he has to do with terminology, because you find someone buying radios, looking at radio ads, looking at the boxes on a radio. I don't know if I can. There's a box here. I can maybe check it out. I don't know if I can use that one, or is there another one here? Must have some radio boxes. Anyways, so he's got the terms that he was looking for, some answers. So his first one says one radio that he's seen, which was an older radio from the 80s, add the term crystal controlled synthesized receiver. And he actually was looking also another radio that says it was PLL synthesized receiver. So he says, he's been searching a little bit, and he asks, well, do these two things have something in common? What do I understand? Can you explain to me what these actually are, terms are, and what they mean exactly on radios? So two things that happened in the past. So we have tuning on radios has been of a very different kind depending on the type of radio you buy and the age of the radio you've purchased. So you've got analog tune radios, which simply are you're tuning a circuit as you're turning that button. Actually, what you're doing is you're changing a variable capacitor, and it changes the tuning of the circuit, the frequency it's you listening to. That's the simplest form of tuning a radio. What happens with that is that usually it's very drifty, unless you have a very high quality receiver. So that's the first basic tuning that you have. A lot of old analog portables actually are like that. And like I said, the biggest problem with that, unless you pay really, really for the Grundig that I have, the Grundig Transistor 6001 is an analog tune, but it's just so high quality that it actually doesn't drift really. So that has to do with a lot of the quality of the receiver itself. When you see so for example, the realistic DX302 that I had was one example of that. It said something like quartz crystal synthesized receiver. That means that the frequency display is controlled by a reference, which is a quartz crystal resonance, if you want. That's why they use quartz in watches, because it has it actually has a frequency, and the purer the crystal of the quartz, the more precise they can measure that frequency. And what happens is that quartz synthesized receivers are more precise in their tuning because there's now a reference. So instead of being where we're around this frequency, now you're pretty much always on the frequency. They also tend to drift less. They not necessarily don't drift, but they are much better on that drifting problem. They'll usually drift a little bit, but it's manageable. It's not like an analog, like the DX100 analog with the drifting like crazy that you have to adjust every 2 minutes. A quartz synthesized frequency readout will drift very little. It will slightly drift. It will have to readjust from time to time, unless it's high quality, where of course they've used a really very pure quartz crystal. And the other one, the PLL synthesized receiver, is the most stable of all and the most precise of all in general. This one is different. This one uses a reference clock that is usually very, very precise. And it will actually, the phase lock loop, the PLL is phase lock loop. What it does, it always constantly checks for the reference of the phase lock to make sure that you're tuned on a frequency. And because it's always being checked to make sure that you're always precise, it usually PLL radios don't drift. They don't drift because they are always following the precise clock frequency that they have, and always compare to make sure that the frequency displayed matches in the circuit. So when you tune, it will compare and say, yeah, you're on 15,000 kilohertz, and you're always going to be on 15,000 kilohertz as long as you don't continue tuning. That is the most precise, and the best radios for zero drift, because that PLL circuit will always keep the radio a smack on the frequency. They sometimes need to be adjusted a little bit. It can happen that you need to fix the reference clock. An example is the Kenwood R5000. The Kenwood R5000's reference clock, there's a potentiometer that you have to sometimes readjust, because over time, the heat and the use of the radio that reference will slightly drift away from its perfect reference. So you might tune 15,000 kilohertz .002 to be precise instead of 000. But on a lot of radios, you can readjust that and have it precise. But these are the most precise. So they are, in fact, different ways of tuning radios. So that's for the PLL. The core synthesized was used mostly in the 70s and 80s. It was part of radio circuitry back then. It's not used anymore today. It's not used at all today, because today we have, PLL phase lock loop radios is like so easy to, to so cheap to process today that most radios with frequency display have that. Another question that comes next to that by our friend here is, so he says, one radio that he was looking at said that it was a digital readout with a frequency counter. What does that mean? So on some cheap portables, and I've got quite a few examples here that work like that, you have digital readouts that are on the radio, but they're not actually. So when you have a high-end radio or a standard good portable, that frequency display comes from a circuit that actually knows what frequency you're tuned to. So when you tune a radio to 15,000 kilohertz, that radio, once again with a phase lock loop, knows that you're on 15,000 kilohertz. That's what it displays. That's what it tunes. A radio that has a frequency display readout but says that it's a frequency counter, what it does, it's actually an analog radio that you're tuning. And what happens is they added a circuit that counts the clock of the receiver. So it's going to say, I think you're on 6,000 kilohertz because of the counting of the frequency inside the radio. Now, there's a problem with that, is that it's often not 100% accurate. It could be if the radio is high end, but not on the cheap portables that usually use this. It usually is off a little bit. And of course, you have another problem, is that because it's an analog radio, often you'll have some drifting going on because it's an analog tune radio. The only thing that display gives you is it can count the frequency that you're on. It can tell you you're approximately on that frequency. So it's kind of an like making an analog radio a little better, because at least now you have a visual of what frequency instead of a needle that's not very accurate. But also, it's not the best kind of receiver because there will be drifting, and there will be it often will be off a little bit. You can be off by as much as 5 or 10 kilohertz sometimes, with the way to use these frequency counters. Okay, let's go back to the chat a little bit. John Santucci, nice to have you here. John, K7RXRT, Tucson, Arizona. Nice to have you here. Aldo says 22 Fahrenheit, super cold and windy, but not much snow on the ground. East Central Iowa. Tony, greetings from Ireland. Got another Sangean 990 X2 on Monday morning. Was on its way back by lunchtime. Firmware 078, shortwave stations 5 kilohertz off. And plagued by ghost carriers and internal noise on medium wave and long wave. Wow. Wow. 5 kilohertz off. That is crazy. That is totally crazy. Randy Collins says odd signal coming into 6950 USB, listening on a remote station New Jersey. Sounds like a number station. Whoops. Well, that's a pirate band. And so 6950, 6950, am I hearing anything there? I'm hearing a carrier. But I can't really make out anything. There's also a carrier in 6940, by the way. BZN RLD says 10 meters open on the Oregon coast. Signals from Texas, Ohio, Michigan, and California. It's been closing here. 10 meters has been closing. Been doing quite a long, quite a lot of ham stuff. And notice 10 meters is closing about roughly an hour after sunset here. Kamikaze 76, nice to have you on board. It's from snowy West Michigan. Doug Smith, will I see a big difference from using a 50 feet long wire over a 20 feet on my Yaesu FTDX10 on shortwave reception? If you don't have too much noise around you, from 20 to 50, you should probably see that signals are a little stronger. But not by that much. 20 feet isn't that bad, but yes, you would probably see a difference in signals a little stronger. But that's if you don't have too much noise. That's the biggest problem. If you have too much noise, what's going to happen is that you're going to increase the amount of noise. So that could be, but think of the rule for radio listening. The rule that we all have pretty much is if you put a wire outdoor, put the wire as long as you're capable of. The longer, the better is pretty much the rule that we have. À la prochaine, Christian Marcoux. Oui, peut-être ce soir. Parfait. Take care. And for those that are CIDX members, by the way, there's a Zoom meeting tonight, which I will attend a little later. Mountain Meddling says, boy, I sure do remember as a kid saving money and excited to buy VHF or UHF crystal at Radio Shack. Oh, man. Like the CB radio. Michael, can you still buy a good analog shortwave radio today, new? Pretty much everything today if you want a good radio today, pretty much everything is PLL synthesized receivers. Analog receivers are left to the cheapest ones available. And even the cheapest ones now start using pretty much the DSP chips. JDA Dakota, I remember when most talkies were crystal controlled, and so were RC cars. Yep. Remember filling up my TRC 214, the same one that's in the Stranger Things series, with crystals to have the other channels. And I would do actually something which is technically illegal, but I remember I had at one point I had 3 talkies, and what I would do is I'd keep one with the standard channels. I'd put the crystals, and I remember I had channels 7, 14, and 30 on it. And I had crystals for 7, 14, and 30 on the other ones. But what I would do is I would actually invert the crystal. So what that does is that it changes the frequency you're transmitting, but you're outside of the CB band when you're transmitting. I would do that because in the 80s, there was so much activity in the CB bands that it was difficult to make contact sometimes. So what I would do is I'd keep a pair that I had inverted crystals. So when you were on the inverted crystals, it was crystal clear because there's nobody there. But of course, you were transmitting illegally. I remember one was I was transmitting on 20, I think it was like 25.9 megahertz or something, and another one was like 26 point something. I mean, technically, you're not allowed. That was illegal to do so, but at least you could communicate because there was not all of that CB noisy crap around it. Aldo says, so flat, I think our Iowa stations go so far and nothing to block them and travel at high power is dropped. But also less noise at night, so better pickup. Have heard up to 1,200 miles on AM for brief times. Keegan DXer heard NPR News 9:10 a.m. on 2201 UTC, presumed WSUI, Iowa City. Iowa Public Radio received on a car radio in the Walmart parking. Wow. Joe Tony recently purchased Tecsun 990. Is there an easy way to switch to AM? I don't see it on the radio. So on the 990, when you want to switch to AM mode, but you AM band or AM mode? Do I have my 990 close? It's here. So here's a 990. So let's turn it on. I haven't used it in a while. I need to use it. So if you want to use the AM band, you simply, so on the radio on the right side, you have the second button just below the FM button. There's the medium wave, long wave button. So you're either on long wave or you're either on AM, and it's called medium wave. That's why it says MW, LW on the button. So if that's the question you're asking, that's how you do it. If the question you're asking is to change back to AM mode when you're on single sideband, so of course you will switch to single sideband, and here it goes. Now I'm in single sideband. If I want to remove myself from single sideband, what you need to do is press, so you have upper lower sideband, but at the end, the button next to it, just to the right, will take you out back to the AM mode. So I can be in lower sideband, upper sideband, depending on the button. And I can be here. And if I press the button at the end, I am back in AM mode. So hope that answers your question. Nothing like a visual of a radio to do it. And wow, I'm thinking I'm going to have to use this. I haven't used a PL-990 in quite a while, and I feel like using it now that I have it in my hands. I'm going to keep it close. So hope, Joe, that you now understand. So what else do we have? RGA Dakota. Also remember that someone dropped one of those walkie-talkies and it suddenly started picking up VOA frequencies. Oops. That's not a good idea. John Beckham, can a DSP radio be a PLL? Well, technically in the DSP chip, there's probably a phase lock loop to keep it in precise frequency. So because that chip, which also has DSP or digital signal processing, tunes, you're tuning frequencies. So I'm pretty sure that inside that chip, the design of the chip, you probably have a phase lock loop when you're tuning. So they're going to say it's a DSP radio, but it's probably phase lock looped. It's just the way that it's designed, I would guess. I need to check the I have all the specs of the chip, the DSP chip here, the 47, 35, 36. I need to check the documentation and examine it a little more, for sure. Joe, I also set up my FT818 in the backyard with a chameleon vertical and made 2 QSOs via CW to California, Washington from Oklahoma on 20 and 17 meters. Was noisy due to my neighbors. Yeah, 5 watts. Pretty good. Pretty good. Tony says, alas, Sangean didn't fix a very low volume in SSB. The much older N909 is a top performer on SSB. Yeah. I don't know how low. I'm trying to figure out how low people mean when they talk about low. Because, yes, there is a difference in volume. I did notice. But I find it usable. I don't know. I don't know if mine's different. I don't know if it some are lower than that. In my case, it's okay. Like I still, it's usable in single sideband. But definitely, it's sad to see that. It reminds us of that Ethon satellite HD radios. Like it's sad to see that that well-known manufacturers or well-known brands actually come out with radios that have these flaws, and it's like, wow. And for the price that they're sold, it's kind of unacceptable. Others out of Crafter's Kitchen, my Sony ICF 6700W is spot on in digital display for FM, and always 2 kilohertz too high for AM and shortwave. I think it was always this way. Counts the tune frequency plus 455 kilohertz IF. Yeah, it's possible. It's possible. Maybe if you look at you get the service manual, maybe you can tweak it and try to tune it back more precisely. Take care, Mr. C's Garage. Melon Chips is set at WTWW 5085 is closed for good. I used to listen for the weekends. Yeah, well, you can listen to their broadcasts on the different times on which is called WRMI Legends now. As for WTWW, it's not closed down for good. Apparently, they're going to come back with 2 transmitters, but it will be only religious broadcasting. VT radio, what does inverting the crystal mean? So in walkie-talkies from the days from Radio Shack, when you had the crystals for the radio, the way that the circuit is designed, you needed 2 crystals. So you would buy a pair of crystals. One was for the transmitting stage, one was for the receive stage. On the crystals, you would see the frequencies actually. So basically, if I remember well, they were, I think, 455 kilohertz apart. It's the IF of the walkie-talkies. I think they were. So basically, that meant that when you put them, because there was a receive and a transmit section. So you would sometimes they wouldn't say the frequency, but the crystals would have R or T on them printed. So you would have the T for transmit and the transmit socket, and the R for receive and the receive socket, which meant you would hear, say, channel 7, which was 27035, I think. So you would receive channel 7 on the correct frequency, and when you would transmit, you were transmitting on channel 7. But if you took out those crystals and put the receive crystal in the transmit section and the transmit crystal in the receive section, what you would do is you would shift that frequency you're transmitting and receiving on. So you'd have I would call him back then private channels. So I would say, oh, let's take the talkies with the private channels, because now I was transmitting outside the CB band. So that's what is inverting the crystals, because in a walkie-talkie back in the day, they were coming by pair all the time. You had the transmits and the receive frequencies. So when you'd buy crystals for channel 20, you'd have two crystals, the receive and transmit crystals, so that the talkie would be on channel 20. Fred Water, I'm old enough that my earliest antenna experiment was grabbing onto the TV rabbit ears to get the Toronto Maple Leafs game and better. Look, my mom would go crazy, because when I was, I don't know, 8, 9 years old, 10 years old, I would fiddle, because we had cable TV in the house installed in 1979. And the only reason I knew that, I'm going to tell you guys a little story about this. You're going to find it funny. It's my early adventures of getting my first credit card. I got a story with that. So anyways, before we had cable, well, I would watch the Saturday morning cartoons off of WPTZ or WCBS channel 3 or channel 3 or WCAX, sorry, channel 3 or channel 5 out of Burlington, Vermont. And I think the other one was Plattsburgh, New York, or something like that. So what I would do is I would play with the rabbit ears and position them in a funky way, and I would actually be able to watch my cartoons on Saturday morning. And my mom would go crazy saying, "You're going to break the TV." So anyways, the story with this is we got cable TV in 1979. And the reason I know is because when I applied for my first credit card when I was, I don't know, 19, 18, 19, 20, I got refused. They said, nope. And, I thought, well, I never had credit before, so maybe that company is a little too, they don't want to give a credit card to somebody that has no credit history. And one day I applied for a card that everybody said everybody gets that card, which was a store card. And I got an answer back saying, well, we can't give you the card, but they actually had a nice thing to it. They said, we would advise you to take a copy of your credit report. So I asked for a copy of my credit report, get it, and noticed that there's a bad report on it, and it's Videotron cable TV. And the reason why is because my dad and me, I'm actually junior. My dad has the same name. So I never really, wrote junior in any of my things that I asked for, because I hated using junior. So, of course, having the same name and living for a while at the same address meant that instead of when I would apply for credit, the credit report bureau put a bad, an unpaid cable bill in my report instead of putting it in my dad's report. So when I called him up, I said, well, that's not mine. And they said, well, we can't get it out of there because we don't have a proof that it's yours or not. Even though I explained the situation, and I said, well, this is stupid. And so I had to go to Videotron headquarters downtown and ask for them to give me an official letter saying that is not me. And they didn't want to, because they said, well, how do I know it's not you? So I was thinking, what the hell am I going to do with this, because I was telling them, I said, well, if you don't know who it is, it shouldn't even be there, because you don't even know if it's me or my dad. but they don't want to take it out. So at one point, I get this little genius idea. I'm like, oh, do you have the date the cable was installed? And she says, yeah, we have it here. And she says something like, February 5th, 1979. So I look at her and I said, well, in 1979, I was 10 years old. I don't think I called and said, excuse me, ma'am, I want to have cable TV. It doesn't work like that. And she said, yeah, you're pretty much right with that. And at 10 years old, you couldn't have asked to have cable installed. So she said, yeah, okay, you're right. So finally, they sent me a letter that I gave to the credit bureau saying, look, this isn't mine. You got to remove it from my credit report. And after that, I got my first credit card. But that's one hell of a story for cable TV. What else do we have? K6 YYL, nice to have you on board, Kimberly. Treston says the longest medium wave DX receives was a station in Chicago and on the west coast of Newfoundland, Canada. Distance of 2,500 kilometers. Pretty cool. Take care, Hart. Stay safe. 73. Take care, Bobby. Stay safe. What else do we have? Let's check it out. Joe Tony says, I also have Sangean 990X2. It seems SSB listening on the handband sucks due to low volume. I haven't tried on my Tecsun yet. Well, the Tecsun is fine. On the handbands, you'll have perfect reception on the Tecsun. It doesn't have low volume or any problems with that. The only thing you might have on the Tecsun is if you try to listen to the 10-meter band. On the 10-meter band on the Tecsun, the signals will be wobbly. There's some fault there, and I don't know why. But everywhere else on the other bands, you're going to be okay. Tony says one of the constant issues in radio production is the limited availability of ICs and other parts. So designs that were feasible 20 plus years ago no longer viable due to lack of stock. Yeah. Mountain meddling. The antenna came with a pigtail for the female SMA connection. Will a SMA to BNC to coax be too much on the SMA base on the radio? I want to eliminate having to unscrew and screw every time. Remember that these radios have very sensitive sockets. So don't put much pressure on the radio's antenna socket. I would tell you that it'd be better that you screw and unscrew the SMA connectors than having big connectors with bigger cables that could stress out the connector. A lot of radios can't handle, having too much pressure and too much weight on the antenna socket. So I don't know, be careful. And also remember that if you add too much, converters of connectors, that also, especially for a transceiver, can actually make for the radio not transmitting as much or as good as it should be. If you want to use, because I understand what you want, what you have to understand is to really minimize as much as possible the pressure that you will be putting on the antenna connector, because you're going to break the antenna connection at some point. It's going to become loose or have some problems. And of course, the more you put adapters, the more you're going to lose in there, especially for the transmitting stuff. No problem, VT Radio. Dwayne says 6925 Parrot. And Spacebar says, wonder if 6925 is Radio Cupid. HF HF Underground should know. Tony says Seagram's having a hard time trying to find a ferret rod supplier for their newest production of radios. The supply of ferret rods is an issue lately in Europe and other parts of the world. Take care, John. It's nice to have you on board. 73. Yeah, WCX Burlington and WPTZ Plattsburgh. There are radios, like the Sea Crane. One of the Sea Cranes I remember was actually out of production because they just couldn't find parts to fix them anymore and make new ones. So take care, Bert. Stay safe. Have fun playing around with those new antennas when they're all functional. And maybe we'll have a little chat on the bands. We'll have to take a look at when we can maybe try a little contact. It could be fun. Keegan, DX are now thinking of the Turkeys Away episode in WKRP. Oh, man. Aldo says low volume, use external audio amp or headphones. Yeah, definitely that could help for sure. Yeah. Tony, is there any hidden settings in the H501X for vary the bandwidth on FM? I don't think so. You can maybe do one thing though that would definitely help. You can remove the stereo on the H501X because one of the biggest problems, especially when you're DXing, stereo is a problem. You often want to DX in mono for better sensitivity. So when you're on FM in the you have the little FM. Let me just put the light here. So when you're on FM, you have, of course, the stereo indicator on a 501X. When you press and hold, what do you do? Let me just try again. No, you don't hold. You just press the FM again. So you can have it with stereo. Press the FM button, remove stereo, you're mono. So I don't think you can change the bandwidth, but you might find it better for DXing if you remove the stereo and put it in mono instead. So that might help. It's a suggestion. You can try it out and give us the results. But I don't think there's any bandwidths on the FM that you can change. KWM61 says Sony made a lot of proprietary ICs in their radios. Yeah. Keegan DXer, my dad remembers when he worked at CBS station WISC TV3 in Madison, Wisconsin, 77, 78, when WKRP came on. All the non-essential work came to a halt. BT Radio, show the Radio Shack SW Unshot is working on all bands. I even heard Brother Stare with the telescopic from the basement. Cool. Have fun playing with the radio. Miji, nice to have you here. Solitary radio listener, nice to have you on board from Southern Illinois. Joe Tony, I think it's weird the Sangean doesn't let you change filter widths and SSB. That's one of the main reasons I bought the Tecsun. That is a dumb thing that they did. Why do you let us change them in AM mode, but don't let us change them in SSB? And that stupid automatic bandwidth changer for listening to shortwave, which is horrible. I mean, that they could have changed too. And then ship Seagrain CC2 radios connected their LCDs to the circuit board via thermal rubber ribbon cable. These cables turned to mush within a couple of years. Aldo, what filters would you add to the Icom R75? What are the stock filters that they have, and what are the options? If you have filters available, I would probably, what I choose usually, if you have a choice, like here on the Kenwood R5000, we had choices of filters. Usually you want to have a good AM filter that is not too wide so that you don't have interference from nearby. But the other ones, a good SSB filter, or if you do Morse code or digital modes, maybe a like a 500 hertz CW filter or something like that could be interesting to have for sure. But on the 501, like I said, try the mono. Removes the stereo mode. You might have better success for DXing. It's often something that was done in the past for DXing also. So, hey guys, we've been on for 3 hours. I'm a little tired, and I'm starting to feel hungry, and I will actually join another Zoom meeting a little later tonight. So that's going to be a lot of camera time. So I'm going to take a little 2-hour break before we go back on the Zoom meeting for CIDX. And any CIDX member could be just joining the Zoom meeting tonight. Tony says Sangean radio is very hit and miss. Friend of mine sent back the Sangean 405 due to hand capacitance interference and unacceptable birdies all over the place. I got the 405 here, and it works okay. But definitely it's, I don't know. Tony says uses 500 hertz filtering when doing CW. So Aldo says 2.2 kilohertz SSB stock, I think. Okay. See you, Mickey. See you later tonight. Take care, everybody. Yeah. Happy Thanksgiving to you guys in the US. Absolutely. Here it's just a regular week. We had ours in October. Take care, Ricky. And stay safe, everybody. Thanks for those that tipped. And thank you so much for being here and being great fans also. Take care, all. Stay safe. Love you all.